We are back, baby. Moneyline Monaco podcast, Thursday Night Football. We're officially in October. What a wonderful month of sports. Arguably the best month of sports. We got the Falcons on the slate, hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. And at the moment, gridlocked at Falcons -1.5, -130. And 43 and a Captain Dustin Hoffman hook here. 43.5's the over-under. Juiced -110 to both sides at a couple of books at the moment. Now, this is an interesting matchup. NFC South bout. Falcons off a very dramatic 26-24. No cover. One of my L's and my only L from last weekend. If you've been following me, we are 5-1-1 in the last 7 picks on the program. And RL was the Dirty Birds, -2.5. Who hits the game winner? 26-24. And we sit here in the betting market, and 3 is a key number. I'm starting to sit here and go, at what point are the real professionals in this space going to sit here and go 1.5 and 2.5 is a completely different cap? I mean, that opened at Falcons -1.5 against the Saints, closed at 2.5, 26-24 dance. You lose on the hook. Just a sick Scotty Van Bad beat pending when you purchase that. So I come off a Falcons L, and I'm off and on here, if you have been listening, talking about how difficult it is to get a game wrong with a team. Let's say you back a team, they let you down. How do you go into the following week completely non-emotionally at the painting and look at it just down the middle? Can you Switzerland look at this approach of a Bucs Falcons dance and make a correct assumption? Now, if you were on the program last week, NFL Week 4 picks my second favorite bet to the Ravens over the Bills, and we've been coming in hot here as you see it right here, 7-2-1 in the last 2 weekends. Thursday night's different dance, but we had the Bucs +1.5 over the Eagles. What a absolute over by halftime routing. And that's kind of narrative-wise as we get into this game, what we've seen with Tampa here, 3 of the first 4 weeks. Now, Tampa's a 3-1 against the spread cover. The Falcons are 1-3. Big discrepancy there. But if we're looking at tickets, we're looking at money. It was a 2.5-point line bet down. So early money did come in on Tampa. This is a huge coin flip game. I always do my research, my due diligence. I go and I watch a number of pods, listen to a number of videos, listen to a number of pods, watch a number of videos, just to see what the market is, read, obviously, 6 to 10 articles. Nobody really feels particularly strong, at least what I've surveyed, about this game. It is a pass for a lot of people. It is not a strong bet on either side. I will tell you there is an angle here that's worth looking at, and I have the numbers to support it. But here we are. These two teams dance twice in 4 weeks. And if we're doing any of our look-aheads, you got the Falcons with the luxury. They've had a very difficult first 4 games. They have the luxury of Carolina next week. That is not a look-ahead spot here for the Atlanta Falcons. And if we go back preseason, they were around a humble plus money purchase, whereas the Bucs were, I believe, around plus 300, 310, if I'm not mistaken, on the pre-flop to win the South. Here we are, Baker and the boys coming out humming. Baker, though, last weekend, we got a gift. Tom Brady talking and Baker hearing, and Baker's a guy that is looking for bulletin board material. Baker is a dog. He is a competitor. He is scrappy. He's a gamer. He's a guy that's looking for anyone to doubt him. And that was last week. Now, you come into this from a Kirk non-primetime standpoint. We've already seen Kirk Cousins in primetime twice in a month of football. They lose the 18-10 dance to Pittsburgh. It was kind of a shock to a lot of people. This was the Justin Fields rolling out moment. They lose 18-10. They come back Monday night, and if you have been following me all year, we love the Falcons plus 5.5 Monday night at Philly. I don't think Philly's a very good football team right now. I think we got leadership questions. We got infrastructure questions. Again, the defense looks susceptible. You saw what Tampa did to them last week, but then you look at what Falcons did to the Eagles week 2, and both these teams handled Philly in different instances. But to go into Philly on Monday night, first home game for the Eagles coming off Brazil, I mean, that's a ruckus environment. And Kirk went down the field last moment, if you remember, and stole that game. They go the following week, Sunday, at home against KC. That line was around 3.5, closed at 3, and I jumped on KC -3. So fading the Falcons, where I'm at. I'm 2-1 ATS here. Didn't touch the Pittsburgh game week 1. But you look at these games, 22-21, 22-17, 26-24, theme-wise. This is a Falcons team that plays close games. This is sort of a gritty team that not necessarily has an identity yet. But when you sit there, and this is Raheem Morris versus Todd Bowles. These are DCs, plural, going at each other. And I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the tickets. I'm looking at the money. Everyone loves the over. Everybody loves the over, and I get it. 50-point combined total for the Falcons and the Saints last week. You saw the Bucs, again, continuing. I mean, they went out and they put up over 40 against Philly. This is a high-scoring affair on paper. I'm telling you right now, the public's hammering the over. And let's talk unders here at 43.5 if it's still available to you. Now, primetime unders through the first month, 14-10. But listen to this. Kirk Cousins, under in 9 of his last 10 starts, 8-3 to the under as a primetime starter since 2020. And Baker on primetime evenings, 13-2 to the under. Now, I don't shout out referees a lot here. This guy out there named Ron Tolbert, officiating. He is the most profitable ref to the under since 2020. 43-26 to the under, the referee. So you sit there. If you just didn't touch a side and said Kirk, 9 of his last time are the under. 9 of his last 10 games. 8-3 in his last 11 primetime unders. Then you got Baker 13-2 to the under in his career. And this ref's the most profitable under to 2020. And the tickets are on the over. Listen, it's a short week. You go look at it and I'll spare you. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers injury list, it looks like roll call in second period. It's your local school. It is a laundry list. You have to factor in these are human beings. They're going on a road trip. Yes, it's Tampa to Atlanta. It's not long, but it's still a team that's banged up, who's had in Tampa 3 of their first 4 games at home. Cozy, comfortable. Now, you go to Detroit, you go to Ford Field, you take an F-150 to the Detroit Lions jugular. It's no small feat. It's a huge trap bet. But if we've learned one thing through the first month of football, it's if you're getting over 6 points, you take the dog. So that kind of went along with the trend there, and you kind of caught the Detroit Lions napping. Other than that here, we had the Bucs kind of just picking off lower opponents. I'm not going to sit here and not give them credit. You put up over 40 against Philly. Philly's not a good football team. It was an easy bet. And then you look at what they did week 1, 37-20 against Jaden Daniels' Commanders. They're just taking care of what they're supposed to. They're a well-coached team. There's a lot of Super Bowl champion Tom Brady products. You remember Todd Bowles obviously still on that club. It's a lot of leadership and accountability on this Tampa Bay team. They're really adults in that locker room, quite frankly. And we look at the Falcons side of things. The Falcons have questions on offense. I mean, we're sitting here with Darnell Mooney leading the receiving room. Kyle Pitts is a no-show. Most frustrating fantasy football draft pick known to mankind. And Drake London still establishing that rapport. But just the last button on the under here. Now, Bowles has danced in NFC South matchups 12 times. 12 times. He has only allowed more than 21 points in 4 of those 12 divisional dances. That's 2-4 to the under last year. This is the NFC. The NFC South does have a lot of dances that trend to the under. Now, ironically, Cousins danced against the Bucs in Baker's debut. Obviously, he was in a Vikings uniform. That was a 2017 game. A 2017 game. And if you kind of look at the Falcons here through a month of football, who are 2-1 their last 3, You'll lose a turnover battle 3-0 week 1 to a Pittsburgh Steelers team that was the number 1 in defense through 3 weeks and the number 1 in turnover differential through 3 weeks. And they're still top 3 in both those categories through a month. But you only have 2 turnovers in 3 weeks of football. That's what you want. Now, Cousins is a guy that's sort of a player coach at this point in his career. He's got a lot of young assets on this team. Now, Bijan's coming in with a hamstring. But if we're looking at where this Tampa Bay Bucs D, and again, we're scouring for information here, Tampa Bay Bucs have allowed a lot of big runs here. You look at Saquon, he had 84 yards and 10 carries. That's 8.4 per. You had Batty for the Broncos, 70 yards on 9 carries, and Gibbs got 84 on 13. Paging Devin White, nowhere near a Bucs uniform. So if you look at the recipe for tonight, it's got to be run the ball, and we'll see with the Bijan hamstring. Algier is no snub of a backup. This is a real guy. I'm actually looking at his rushing yards in this matchup. It'll plus money at 40-plus yards and a heck of a payout if he breaks 50, 60, 70. But I got questions a little bit about this Tampa Bay Bucs D and where they are here. And if you look at them, they're kind of middle of the pack in passing, middle of the pack in running. They're 18th in yards allowed. They're 22nd against the run. They're 16th versus the pass. So that's not great, and it's not really good, but it's not abysmal. So they're sort of in that middle ground here. But this is short week on the road, banged up club, going to Atlanta, who has had a very difficult schedule. You got to play Pittsburgh. You got to play Philly on the road. You got to come back and play the Super Bowl champs. And then you got to play a pretty high and feeling themselves Saints team, in a game where they got routed in the previous. It's a tough 4 weeks. Meanwhile, you look at the Bucs and you're like, all right, I mean, you can't not give them the big solid credit for the Lions win. Enormous win. But that was circled on the calendar. So 2 DCs as head coaches tonight. This game's going under. My favorite bet, and it's gross, it's got to be a playoff baseball, October baseball under. It just has to be. The public's on the over. I gave you the numbers. Now, it could be a shootout. We're way wrong. But theme-wise, we'll find out in the first half if this game's going to be checkers or chess. If it's checkers, we're cooked. If it's chess, this is both sides of the football looking to impose their will with running the rock. Bucky Irvin now, a real dude over there for Tampa. But without going on and on, Atlanta's D's given up about 4.9 yards per play. That's pretty good. Now, their pass D was very susceptible last year, brought in a couple of pieces. They've gotten better defensively in the pass game. 6 yards per pass, they're giving up against teams that average over 7. So, again, these are tiny numbers, but they call it a game of inches. And this Tampa Bay run D giving up over 5 yards per carry, over 130 per game. The script, the game plan, for Atlanta is there. Run the ball to set up. Kirk's one of the most fundamentally sound in the pocket when he has time. Play action passers in this league. If Bijan and Algier can establish the run with this offense in the first half and let the crowd and the big playability, which Tampa has big playability, be at bay, this is a good spot for Atlanta. I got to lay the 1.5 here. Take the Atlanta Falcons. I don't feel great about it. I've said I feel great on the program all week. I feel good about it. The under seems to be the play. We could get smacked here. It could be a good old shootout. There are a lot of injuries, short week. Maybe they just gunsling it all around. But I can't keep going back. I can't not keep going back to DC Morris versus Bulls. I mean, this could be 2 fascinating defensive game plans, and the public's just looking at Baker lighting it up several times through the first month of football. Look, Danny Quinn and that Commanders D still has some questions. You put a 37 on them, and then I guess theme-wise, to put a button on it, if you're looking at what the Bucs did against the Lions, that was a very close score to the under. Very, very interesting game that ends up going 2016, and Baker threw for under 200 yards. And so Falcons Bucs split last year. Kirk wasn't there. How much can you take from last year? I think more looking at the 12 dances with Todd Bowles teams going 8 unders to 4 overs in the NFC South tells you a little bit there. Also, again, you look at the quarterbacks, Baker and Kirk trending to the under. So now, without repeating myself, we're getting out of here. As far as props, I was able to nail 3 or 4 on Monday for the Lions game. I don't have a ton of feel for this game. I think you could be looking at maybe some backup running back props, whether it's Bucky, whether it's Algier, could be some value in that department. You have no idea. I mean, Kirk Cousins likes Ray McLeod and Darnell Mooney right now more than he likes Pitts and London. I just, as far as trust, that's problematic. Now, Godwin is having himself a remarkable season. Dude is on the touchdown board. He is leading the receiving room. And at some point, Evans is going to have to pass the torch to him just from an age perspective. I don't know that I love either of these guys on a guaranteed prop. Come out, show out, cash that ticket. Obviously, a Mike Evans touchdown is probably the most comfortable play if you're really doing anything. Guy is just a magnet for Baker in the end zone. And his numbers against the Falcons are very good. But just looking at where everybody is here so far in the market, nobody feels great about this game. It could go either way, but if we're doing a look-ahead spot here, you got to really factor in that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had a much easier schedule, and then they go back-to-back on the road against the Falcons and then the Saints. So you got to figure after those two, then you got Baltimore, then you got the Falcons again, then you got Kansas City, then you got the Niners. That's a daunting schedule. We're going to find out who the Bucs are here by mid-October. But I imagine 2 road games back-to-back NFC South. That's a tough scheduling spot. I think they go 1-1 in those moments. I think this is one of those games where maybe the Bucs drop this game. They come back in the New Orleans dance, show up and show out. Of course, we'll see what New Orleans does Monday night against Kansas City. But best bet, again, 2 a side and an under to everything I just spoke on. I got to go Falcons lay the 1.5. I got to go under 43.5 here. I just have to do it. Have to do it. 2 DCs, primetime under, trends for both quarterbacks. Number 1 most profitable ref in the game to the under, Ron Tolbert. Go take a gander, shall we? And the public's on the over. That about does it. Subscribe, rate, review. We'll be back tomorrow. We're doing ESPN New York. We're doing my guy Kaplan and crew, Scotty Kaplan, ESPN LA show as well. And we got our best bets for week 5 picks, of course, tomorrow. Don't forget, please subscribe, rate, review goes a long way. We're out here grinding in the lab. Appreciate everybody. We'll be back one more time before game time. Don't forget to hug your mothers. Ta-ta, real smooth.